Alright guys, here is the setup. We got the ink, we got the rinse cups, the needles, the Bishop wand shader with the critical wireless power supply, and the stencil on the fake skin. We are using real skin for this piece, and there is our Clooney. Let's jump into it and start this thing off. Now, there were a lot of things I learned in the process of doing this, and right off the bat, the ink was being saturated by this fake skin so quickly, I had to go to a 1-drop and then even a rinse cup to get my shades light enough. But more on that later. I'll explain what I realized I did wrong and what could really help out in the future. Such a rookie mistake I made. But guys, when getting into tattooing portraits, it's not just like you just jump in and start doing it. There was an entire process, entire thing I went through. This was where I started. I found the image of Clooney. I can tell you more about that later, but we started with Clooney. I went ahead and I stenciled him. As you can see here, it's quite a detailed stencil, but when you're looking at making a portrait, it needs to be detailed. Put as much information in there as you can. This was like a roadmap. I needed a roadmap to make this thing work. So I went from here and then I dropped out the background. You can see this is what we're left with, our roadmap again. But I needed to make sure that I could do this on paper first. So I made it black and then I went back in and I lightened it up. I dropped the opacity on it very low. And you might be wondering why. Well, it's once it's low enough, I could then print it. Once it was printed, I had a roadmap. Now I had to learn how to read this roadmap. So we went to town and I did this with charcoal. And when it was all said and done, I followed that roadmap and this is where it brought me to this piece here. So I kind of felt confident. I went ahead and I did another piece as well. I felt like, okay, I can potentially try this out now. So I took that stencil and I put it on the fake skin. But of course, as you know, you don't just want to slap the stencil onto the fake skin, give it 10 minutes and go at it. No, this needed to dry, and I gave it plenty of time to dry. Gave it a couple of days, and it was very dry at that point, and it wasn't going anywhere. And as you can see in this video, I am wiping a lot, and that stencil isn't going anywhere. But again, more on that later. Now, if you slow down here, you can really see the pace at which I'm moving, and I'm taking my time. When it came to charcoal, it was really hard to keep my charcoal nice and sharp. But when using a needle, drop down to a small needle, and it's like performing surgery or something. You have such precision with these needles, so that was a real big plus for me, and I felt nice and confident about that. The problem is every little mistake is permanent, whether it's on fake skin or real skin. So I took my time and I really let myself absorb it. So if you're looking to get into tattooing faces or portraits, I'm by no means an expert. I'm merely explaining my process and where I'm at right now. But I will say, drawing these things or practicing reading your own stencil, your own roadmap is vital. It builds that confidence that you have with your stencil, which is a weird thing to say, but you have to have confidence in your stencil. Sometimes you can put too much in it, but I'd rather be too much than not enough. So this was adequate. I think moving forward, I might draw back a little bit here or there, but again, I'd rather have more than less. So when approaching this piece here is I wanted to keep it light until I really got most of it together, and then I wanted to go back and just put some darks in some key areas to push the contrast a little bit. Later I found that maybe I shouldn't have, but at the same time, the mistake I talked about before, I didn't realize till this thing was already done why it was taking the ink so fast and why I had to be so gentle with every single stroke. And maybe that'll help me quite a bit moving forward. But at the time, it was kind of tricky. Every stroke, the ink was being saturated very quickly. And the reason for that was I had nothing behind the fake skin. There was no padding. It was pretty much that black little dental bib there and then a hard table. So those needles were punching and having no bounce. There was nothing behind it. It wasn't until I finally put a bunch of paper towels back there that things felt real again. But that wasn't until the end, which you'll see later when I go ahead and add a background or whatnot. I could no longer at this point tell what was going on. There was too much purple back there. I had to stop and let it sit overnight in bleach. It sat in a shallow layer of bleach, and I just let it sit overnight. Next day came around, I pulled it out of there, and bam, the purple was gone. I really liked it, but of course I had to go and ruin things by making a background, as you can see. But I learned a lot from the process. I'm gonna do another one of these, guys, so if you want to see another video like this with more detail, give it a like, subscribe, and ring the bell to get notifications when we post. Guys, I really appreciate it. Until next time, peace.